And so it is, beloved masters. Health and well-being and the greatest of love to all. You can, if you desire, be well. And it is to understand that wellness actually encompasses every aspect, every area of your life. So often when someone says artist, and the mind says putting paint on a canvas, and yet, beloved masters, there are so many ways to be an artist, so many ways to practice art, and being well is an art within itself. So when I say well, very often the mind goes to the physical form. And if I have a malady, the ego mind says, then how am I expected to get rid of that disease just because I desire it? After all, no one wants to be diseased. And so it is. Let us get very clear that the desire to be well is an agreement in the center of yourself, an alignment with your own personal truth that allows you to feel into why there is a disease to begin with. And the ego does not want you to know. And yet, as you desire to be well, you will begin to have insights. You will begin to feel into the places where wellness does not exist, and to recognize how you have created to prevent yourself from being wholly at ease with yourself. Because, beloved masters, when you allow yourselves to live in love, then you begin to recognize more and more what it is to be wholly well. Disease, mental illness, and the medical profession is so afraid of mental illness that they either want to swear it doesn't exist or put it into its appropriate place. I'll send you to a psychiatrist and they will tell you how to deal with your mental illness. And now it is, beloved masters, in the upheaval of these changing times, many people are encountering such fear of change that they are reacting to something they cannot control, something they do not know. And the response patterns are being called by the legal system, by the medical community, mental illness. But it is, beloved masters, it really is a dis-ease of separation. The mind has been the creator of this game of separation. You're brilliant. You're masters. Your choices create. And the choice to avoid yourself, to avoid the pain, to avoid the situation, whatever it may be, has been the way of separation. If I don't like it, I won't deal with it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to go where it is. I don't want to be around those kinds of people because it makes me uncomfortable. And so, I have said it, I will say it again, the discussions about this are going to keep coming. Every avenue of escape that you have used to leave yourself is being cut off. Every avenue. As you are lovingly, truthfully, by your own choice, being brought home to yourself. So many of the games of separation have been energetic outer projection. We need to heal the world. We need to make them change. We need to fix them. Now, the operative word in all of these statements is need. And when there is a need, there is a wall of separation involved in the need, because neediness does just that. It cuts you off from the things you desire. And so, beloved masters, you are being energetically, emotionally, mentally, physically, but most of all spiritually, brought home to yourself. How loving. And yet the ego may shout about control. The ego that wants to control everything will be the first element to point a finger and say, you will not control me. There are so many people that are afraid that if they hear my words, I will take control of them. And it is, beloved masters, I assure you, in the greatest of love, masters are not seeking to take over the world. Masters are seeking to assist the world to remember it has the power to create all of this differently. And you've always known it. It's always been there. It dwells inside of you. Oh, but the terrible things in the world and the dark side. And it is, beloved masters, to love all of yourself, to embrace every bit of you, to forgive making divisive judgments, and to look for what is well. What is well is healthy. So, healthy relationships, healthy interaction in the world, healthy finances, healthy bodies, healthy minds, healthy emotions, all are created in wholeness. Being afraid of half of yourself has allowed separation to go on and on. To be terrified of parts of who you are. To fear the mirror out there in the world. To want to look away from the things you don't like, the things you can't control, the things you fear, and attempt to avow that the only way that you can be well is in avoidance and beloved masters. That part of the illusion is becoming so unstable that there is a great fear suddenly on the planet about those that are suffering from mental illness. And yet Revelation is showing that those who are most clinging to how it was are experiencing mental illness, dis-ease, because attempting to hold on to the way it was is becoming more and more truly like grasping at straws. And yet it takes such courage to allow yourself to remember how to be in love with yourself. You can, if you desire, be well. You cannot be well because you demand it. You cannot be well because you need it. You will not find your health improving just because you want it to do so. Because want and need don't have the power to bring you home to center. And when you connect in love in the center of yourself, it is almost as though you discover this amazing power generator in the center of your being that brings you a dynamic that allows you to stand with yourself in ways you have not remembered in lifetimes. An example. New Year's resolutions. I'm going to go on a diet. Now, beloved masters, why in the world would you want to live on something that has the word die in it. So to talk about diet is basically to slip in a little element of death, a little poison, that will infect your determination, and you began to slowly back away from your resolve. I desire to discover in love my divine body. I desire to experience it. I desire to feel it. I desire to live my divine body, my healthy, holy vehicle. And in desire, you can actually feel from the Lord God of your being as though you are being strengthened, as though there is a sense of patience and perseverance that wasn't there in want and need. I desire to experience wonderful, vibrant health and well-being. And in the solar plexus, it is almost as though the lights go on inside of you. You may actually begin to feel warm and comfortable with yourself in the center of your body, because the desire nature connects with the spirit and supports you in every choice that you make that is for your highest good. So no longer are you condemning yourself for, quote-unquote, fighting the battle of the bulge. No longer are you being judgmental and accusatory of yourself and everyone else because doing without the things you want makes it so hard to be good to yourself. And yet, beloved masters, when you desire to be well, it is almost as though Spirit steps forward, slips its arm around the ego, and says, let's take a walk and consider these things. And if you are willing, Spirit will bring your ego home. And as you integrate that Lord of separation that has abided in your intellectual mind, the control booth of your head, for so long, as you allow not a battle and conquering or overcoming or stomping out the ego, but bringing the ego home in love, in reassurance, bringing the ego to be with you rather than against you. And so, beloved masters, wellness is an overall, complete, fulfilling sense of at-one-ment and holiness with yourself. And yes, the ego is going to fight it every step of the way, because the ego feels as though it is losing ground. This is Armageddon. This is the last great war. You see the mirror, the outpicturing of battle all over the planet, but it's the war inside that is being reflected in those conflicts out there, not the other way around. And so, your integration with self, your homecoming, your willingness to allow yourself to live well becomes a mighty, powerful contributing factor to the wellness of the world, to the health of the collective consciousness. Dearly beloved, amazing, divine, powerful, creative masters. Wellness. When peace, like a river, within myself doth roll, it is well with my soul. Wellness brings peace. The willingness to be well allows the peace to stay. Therefore, getting together with yourself in alignment, in acceptance, in love, allows you to experience new levels of wellness. And as you begin to experience the potential for wellness, revelation begins to show you all of the places within you where there are games around wellness. If you're too well, then no one will pay any attention to you whatsoever. There's an expectation in the world of labor that if you're well, if you are strong enough to come to work, then you are to fulfill what you are required to create by the contract that you made when you agreed to work. There are no allowables, no excuses, no forgiveness associated with time away. And employers throughout time have brilliantly sought to find ways to keep the task force in place by punishment and penalty if you do not or cannot come to work. And yet, mental health requires that there is some time away from the labor. If you are studying for a test, and you study and you study and you study all night before the test until perhaps you fall asleep with your head on a book, and then you get up, harried, and I believe the word is strung out, with nervous tension because you did not rest yourself, and yet you expect to go in and make a miraculous score on the test because you worked so hard to prepare. When if you would study an hour and walk around the room, study an hour and step outside for 15 minutes, study an hour and then go to bed and get a good night's sleep, because there's only so much that can be pushed into the finite mind before it rebels. And therefore, mental and physical abuse does not work for most people. There are some who have an amazingly strong will that can drive themselves relentlessly and still go take a test and do fairly well. But the majority of entities do not have that force of will, because part of their choices through lifetimes has been to allow their will to become weak, to become submissive, to do what they are told, because that is an underlying rule of the game. Don't ask questions, just do as you're told. So the boss says, I hire you, I give you a paycheck, and my expectation is that you will be here every day, rain or shine, sick or well, and you will give me optimum energy. The insanity of the illusion. You may notice more and more in the energy of these times that every day is a different day. Now, that's always been true. But some people have been so involved in the routine of their life that they didn't notice that every day was a different day, because they got up in the morning and they performed certain tasks. They took a shower, they brushed their teeth, they made coffee, and then they went out the door to work. And on the days when they did not have the requirement to be on the job, they didn't know what to do with themselves. And they didn't like it that this day was a different day, because they wanted order and structure. And they only felt safe in order and structure. And they really only felt safe if they were told exactly what to do, even if they took advantage of being told what to do, to rebel against it. For there are many in this strife-torn planet that even though they would swear that they had to go to the job every day, they hated it. They would complain about it, and they would find small ways and sometimes great ways to get back at the quote-unquote tyrant that was forcing them, against their will, to have to work, even though if they didn't know what to do with themselves once they had some free time. So Revelation is showing up every dark corner, every hidden agenda, every way of being separate, every game of the ego. And that is why we say you are being brought home, because you ask for this time to come. In love, you are being brought home. And all of those escape routes of lies and deceit, of hatred and anger, of games, both subtle and blatant, that have been played throughout time, they're not loving. They do not offer healing. And therefore, as you desire to be well, you can be. But it is that passion in love that actually brings you home to yourself, that assists you to be there with you every moment as you are healing.